Welcome back to the Reboot Show. I'm your host, Sally A. Illingworth, and I'm excited to be here today with our resident technology panelists, Luke Stowe and Kelly Hutchinson from Digital Innovation Futures Victoria. This is our 9th segment of the DIF Daily Download series brought to you by Big Mouth. Before we get started, I'd like to hand over to Luke to do our acknowledgement of country.
Yeah, thanks, Sally. On behalf of us all appearing live today from Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, we would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations as the traditional owners of the land in which we all meet on today. We respectfully recognise elders past, present and emerging.
Thanks, Luke. As always, if you're coming in live, drop a 1 below. If you're coming in on the replay, drop a 2 below. And as always, let us know where you're coming in from. It's incredible to see how these platforms bring us all together. So to kick us off, Kelly, what were the highlights of the festival today?
Well, we've been waiting, it's the last week, the last 3 days. And one of my favourite things that we've been planning for the past couple of months is being around the Regional Growth Showcase. So this was a showcase of a number of projects, 28 projects that have been funded through the Victorian Government's Regional Digital Fund. It's a $3.5 million fund that went out and worked with regional partnerships. There's 9 regional partnerships across the state and said, okay, what are your needs as far as digital connectivity and what other areas do you need to really help you as a community and business get into the digital economy? So, you talk about place-based activation, right? That we know that communities come up with the best solutions for what their needs are, and you're better off doing it in partnership and co-designing. And so what's been amazing has been the amount of different types of organisations that have come forward to put forward projects. So, we've had local governments, you've got chambers of commerce, you've got local learning, LLNs they're called, so local small community-based education centres, but also TAFEs and universities coming together and all combining their different strengths and seeing what perspective they might bring to projects. So we looked at 4 different areas and, it was divided up. I mean, you think it was a long day, but it was divided up into 4 segments. One about digital hubs. So the ways in which in regional and in cities, we know co-working spaces. Well, there's co-working spaces out in the regions. There's digital hubs attached to libraries. And so there was a few different discussions about the different types of models. So in Ararat, they were really looking at agriculture and ag tech and how might digital connectivity and digital hubs be able to support the agricultural businesses in the region. You also had the Southwest TAFE looking at a digital hub feasibility study, to really go and understand what the needs are, particularly for education. I think they were looking at the Portland area. So down over on that great southwest coast, I think that's the region. And then we had digital health and we had connectivity, of course, because we need that connection. And also then digital inclusion. So looking at different ways that we might engage communities in the digital economy, which is what we've been talking about a bit this past 10 days.
Yeah, well, this is our 9th segment, so it must be sort of 10 days in. Sorry, Luke.
No, I was just going to say that's really exciting. I caught a couple of episodes of the DIF On Demand over the weekend, which I was pretty excited about. One of those was what role will technology play in the recovery of the Australian economy, which I think you may have spoke on, but I watched it on demand. That was very interesting. Has there been anything that sort of stood out to you that people should watch on demand?
Yeah, well, you'd mentioned there that was the Piercy Foundation roundtable last year, and it was really looking at they take the thought leadership position of what's really current at the time, and it's still relevant as we find now that resilience is just as important. And actually, they ran a roundtable again this year with the future of work. So really looking at when we go back to work or go back to an office, or how will we work? This is now. The future of work is now, and really was a really great piece where they brought in industry. I think it was from Deloitte, and somebody from a leading academic from Swinburne University to talk about the latest research he's done regarding future of work and what work means in an Australian context. So, yeah, it's wonderful to be able to have these these moments in time where we take some time out and actually consider the big picture type of questions, and also bring in case studies that really help. So, yeah, there's quite a lot of those types of events that have happened over the festival and that are now available. So you've got events from last year because not everybody saw it last year, and then also the one that happened on the opening day. So, yeah, there's a good mix of, thought leadership, bringing in those different perspectives. What is innovation? How can technology help us address whether it's business or individual needs and career needs? So, yeah, that's definitely, you got onto a good one there.
I tell you, the other one I saw, Sally, that'd be interesting for you is the Talking Cyber with Small Businesses from the Australian Women in Security Network. I know that you like, your investigations and discussions around cyber. And it was particularly interesting because it was about small business. It's just such a range of technology programs to look at. I found, myself, tossing between 3 and 4 different segments to watch, but ended up on those 2.
I think that, cybersecurity conversations for small business have certainly become more important throughout the COVID period, right? Because many small businesses, particularly those that probably weren't that digital savvy pre-COVID because they didn't really feel like they needed to be. What's happened is, in many cases, is even if it's just a small, local retail business that has just suddenly taken on board online ordering capability or the like, I think it's been really interesting to see what's happened there. And I think it's been a challenge for small businesses because many of them previously didn't have to concern themselves with the full breadth of cybersecurity and what that actually means and what threats that poses to their business. So I think content and education and discussion around that is really, really key because it's such a new space for so many small businesses.
Look, you're totally right. And actually, there was a session last night specifically around small business. Run by Regional Rising, one of our partners up in the Northeast, and actually the whole of the state, looking at how regional businesses need to be aware of these things as well. So, Paul Dillon and Leighton looked through that for, real practical tips on, Wi-Fi network password. Don't just have the default one. Password 1234, not a good password. Strange little things like that, but it's very important with reputation as well, and online, people will review, and there's actually quite a lot of different challenges in reputation management of cyber risk. So it's a different type of risk than just having somebody come in and steal the credit card details of your customers. Oh, that'd be a good one. But it's actually also about how you might have reputational risk. And there was actually one of the webinars from last year was around small businesses. And, this feeds into ransomware, whether or not, there's so many different dynamics. And that was the opening debate this year. And actually cybersecurity is, of course, one of our priority technology areas that we look at, but it's because it's people and technology and business all integrated. So we've got a range. If you just did a search on cyber on the DIF Online Event Hub, it'll give you a whole mix of stuff that's what's coming up or what's been recorded. And so definitely you can be able to do those types of activities.
Yeah, that's a great one to call out. I think small business faces the same sort of threat vectors that large businesses face, and often don't have the capability internally to sort of deal with those issues. So I think it's really important that the programs like the DIF provide that sort of capability overview, so small business owners can get a sense of what's happening and also what they can do about it and who they can engage with. So having partners in this space is really important for them. Particularly at this time when everyone's spread out and, doing things from home. It's really quite critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think as, you often find that in the cyber domain, training, education, awareness are really the biggest piece of the puzzle, because many cyber practitioners would argue that cybersecurity is not a technology issue. It is a people issue. Because the bad guys are, preying on our vulnerabilities. And I think, Kelly, you highlight a really interesting point about reputation, which I think it's important for every business, but particularly for, say, a small business. You got a local bakery. I don't know, it could be anything. Local bakery, all of a sudden you've taken on board something as simple as online ordering. Many small businesses rely on their reputation, physical small businesses, retail businesses rely on their reputation and word of mouth in their local community to survive. And that's how they keep going. So I think you raise a really critical point, and I agree with Luke. I think it's brilliant that they can go to DIF On Demand and access, a range of education and awareness and perspective from so many different people and partners. And that goes back to what was the original, the opening event for the DIF?
The opening debate, yeah. It was what's worse, people or technology? And, it was a question I posed to the Australian Information Security Association, which are the professionals that are looking at, cybersecurity, whether or not, there's a role called CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. Like there's a CEO, a CISO, a COO, there's many different titles. But, whether it's a major corporate that has responsibilities legally of regulatory responsibilities to report, or as you say, the small business, the other thing is that it comes down to a lot of scams and fraud, and we had a session on ransomware, which we're just waiting for them to edit. I think it might be ready. That really, we brought in the federal police to talk about how this has worked, and particularly to do with scams around invoicing. And a lot of different things, and that people aren't aware, and small businesses, but usually when you're a smaller business, but if you're scaling, if you're getting 2 or 3 different outlets, ordering and, logistics and all of these things, and e-invoicing that's coming through, they're really good to help you be more streamlined in your business, but there are new risks that are involved. Just the same way you have to deal with cash handling or reconciliation between your day takings and the others. So actually we had the second commissioner for the tax office last week talk about taxation and how they've made they literally are the most digitized tax revenue service in the world. And Australia is leading the way on that, and they're not leading on the audit thing. They're leading on really being being in advance, getting people to and that comes into that behavioral economics, we call it. So the behavioral approach, which is why you get something that says, did you know that 96% of people lodge their tax returns on time? And that just says to you, aren't you going to be one of those 96? Because it's exactly the same psychology that's used by a scammer who sends through something that looks relatively real and you trust it and you think so. Yeah, that idea of trust. Actually, tomorrow we've got tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is AI Day. It's all about AI tomorrow. I'm just excited. Sorry, I just wanted to jump to tomorrow because it made me think about it.
That's exciting for the second last day of the festival. That's really exciting. Great way to finish it off.
Yeah, well, we're looking at the ways in which artificial intelligence can help or hinder, but also there's an amazing session around AI and mental health, and not just looking at it from an abstract perspective, but really looking at it from a research perspective. So RMIT University and Health, which is a digital health accelerator, actually Bronwyn LeGrice, their co-founder, she was awarded the PSC Entrepreneur of the Year award last week. Remember when I said I'm missing out, finding out who the PSC Victorian Entrepreneur of the Year award was? Well, it was Bronwyn LeGrice. So congratulations to Bronwyn.
Yeah,
she's been really driving this digital health space, and it's a lovely partnership with RMIT Uni where they're going to talk around how how do researchers and businesses and biomedical and all of these different elements work together around things like regulatory, legal and ethical challenges, and then also what type of innovations are around. And Bronwyn's co-founder, Grace Leithman, who's going to be moderating that session tomorrow, it's very popular, and that's on at 3:00 tomorrow afternoon. And I really, it's really interesting. Look, do you like that? Siri said he didn't get it. So my personal assistant, Siri, he didn't get it. That's just because of my speech impediment of my lisp. So, so really interesting things. And then also tomorrow night is the launch of, the thing about technology is there's lots of acronyms. So I said CISO before, and DIF even itself is an acronym. And so you've got AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning. And then both of those are central to the launch of CIARI, which I presume that's how I say it, but it's CIAIRI, which is the Centre for Industrial AI Research and Innovation. Again, RMIT, and really looking at all the different ways that businesses need to think about that transformation of industries, but also the different types of things like autonomous decision-making systems or robotics. And they've actually apparently got some friendly robotics as well as their academics and industry partners who will be part of that launch tomorrow night. But yeah, I mean, really exciting cutting edge of connection of industry and research. And there's one thing actually definitely to catch up on demand is the University of Melbourne and Melbourne Connect are one of our partners. And they have put up 19 sessions for you to catch up on. So some of the latest research from their partners from the Computing Information Systems, or looking at the Science Gallery, or looking at the Melbourne Accelerator Program and Entrepreneurial Centre. They're really opening up and sharing their knowledge broader than just having to be on campus. So that's one of the really exciting things that I find, lucky when you're doing a degree and you go to campus, or even, nowadays you don't go to campus, but being able to access some of these latest thinking, latest reports, or examples of startups who are moving to commercialize research is very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And, just going back to the health, I think that's fantastic innovation there from Bronwyn and her team. And that's really a credit to them. And congratulations to her for winning that prize. I think that's very good for Victoria. And organisations, showing their skill set and capabilities on the DIF, I think really showcases how good a quality sort of landscape we have in Victoria for technology innovation and technology businesses.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Now, I'm mindful of time. I'm really looking forward to the AI Day tomorrow. I think it's great. And I think we need a lot more conversations, practical conversations happening around AI, as I think it's easy for us to get lost in the hype of it all when we read mainstream media. But I'll just touch quickly. For those of you who have been tuning in throughout the DIF Daily Download series, you'll know that we release a special ebook download every day. So I'm going to pop the link in the comments, and you can go and grab today's daily download, which provides some insights on modernising digital infrastructure. So it's a really great asset, and we encourage you to go and check it out. We will be back again tomorrow for our 10th segment of the DIF Daily Download series at 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And as always, thanks to Kelly Hutchinson from Digital Innovation Futures Victoria and Luke Stowe for joining us today. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.